All right, next War Gamers, back for second strike phase. I'm actually not going to run through the entire strike phase because it's really and literally just a repeat of the first strike phase. And so that would be unnecessarily repetitive and boring for you to watch. But I am going to highlight two things that we could not do last strike phase because they just weren't, the game situation wasn't in a position where we could do those. So this is kind of, one of them is, well, I guess both of them are going to end up being specific to next war Taiwan. But the beach defenses, and I have to correct something real quick. This is actually still at 1. It won't move until the end of the turn when these hexes become controlled by the PRC. So it's still at 1 right now, which is important because one of the things that an AAZ/beach defense area can do is fire naval SSMs at a target within 5 hexes. And so why I'm clicking over here is because you can trace from here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it can hit either one of these point detected amps. And this, as long as the beach defense value is above 0, both of these are above 0. So that's why this not necessarily maybe the best beach to assault if this beach has also got its defenses still intact. Something to keep in mind. Anyway, what happens though is that these are treated as regular naval SSM attacks. They're naval 2s, not naval 3s like the DF-2126s, but they follow the same format as the DF-2126s. So the I'm going to split these up. We're going to try to get another hit on here and maybe another hit on here. I could put both on here and try to sink that amp, but I think I'd rather, as the rock, degrade or make the Chinese player think twice about using those amps in the future if they have strike markers on them, because the only way they can repair is by going back to port and sitting for a turn, or rather ending a turn in port. So we will actually, you know what? Let's try to sink it. Let's do that. So as before, we have to go back to the strategic display, unless of course you've memorized this, and figure out what the PRC's amps AAA value is. It's a PRC any, so it's a 2. So we can come back over here. We're going to go to our air defense. It is not a non-other, so it gets a -2 on this, a AAA roll. That is going to be nothing. So this naval SSM will come in. It's a naval 2 against a naval target. It is an non-US naval SSM, so it's +1. It is a naval SSM, so by default versus naval, it's another +1. But -1 for the point detection. So it's going to be a net +1 on the die roll under the naval 2 column. A 7 is probably nothing, and it is indeed not an effect. So now we're going to repeat. That AAA value is probably enough to abort it, so that was not very much fun. The other thing I did want to show, though, is naval bombardment. So one of the ways to reduce beach defenses is via naval bombardment. And so we will do that with one of these SAGs that are sitting here. Basically, if naval units are in an amphibious assault zone, never mind. So they have to be in the amphibious assault zone. So these guys can, but these guys can try to reduce that defense marker. At this point, it's kind of a moot point. This is the last time that this beach defense or this AAZ could fire its naval SSMs, so there's really no point in bombarding it. But from a naval bombardment standpoint, which we could not do last time, I think I will show that off. And we will do it here instead. This SAG, with his range of 2, will bombard the detected HQ in the urban hex at the -1. So if we look over on the strike table, it's bombarding as a 3. Urban. With a -1 for the targeting. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Nothing else is going to apply. So we're on that urban row, which is the third terrain row from the bottom, and then we're in the second column over where it says 3 other HQ/RD at a -1 for the targeting. And that 8 is a miss. So 1 bombardment per strike phase, so it's done. This guy could technically bombard something. There's nothing to bombard. You can't bomb a town. This airbase he could bombard, but he's out of range. Same with the port. So not really much of a point of doing any bombardments there. So I guess that's it. I'm going to run through the rest of the strike phase so we can get to the rest of the turn, and then we will be back.